I'll take the role of the CEO and I'll approve everything that John is trying to work about.
No? Great, absolutely. Get the full picture and the broad view of things. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dialogue with Darwin, a series where we deep dive into understanding how HR is evolving in conversation with HR leaders from the industry and bring you a perspective of what the future of work can look like. Today, I'm super excited to be hosting John Mathew, Global Director of HR and Organization Development at BrowserStack. He brings an extensive knowledge of HR transformation and leveraging technology for better outcomes in both business and people that I'm super excited about deep diving into the evolution that he has seen in the HR technology space and how that is being leveraged by the people function as well. Welcome, John. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on the series.
Thank you so much, Gautami. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure myself.
So, John, I would love to jump into your experience first before going into asking you all the serious questions about what's happening to the HR tech world. How did you find yourself at crossroads of HR and technology over the years of wide variety of experience that you had?
Gautami, I guess the first instance, the very, very first instance happened when, I guess back in the day in 2011 or 25, early days in terms of my career, I was requested for an engagement report or an attrition report, and it took me about 2 days in terms of pulling it out and then sharing it out. And back in the day when I'm talking about this days, we didn't have any systems in place. Whenever we used to ask for data, we used to get files and physical files that used to primarily be shared. And from there, we had to pull in something and then probably make something on an Excel and then share it out. Only to my dismay, at the end of 2 days, the data that I shared is not what was exactly required. It was something else. And I came to the conclusion with regards to whatever I'm doing, I cannot be doing that in that particular direction. I have to do something very, very different in the field. And that's the starting point of the need for me, at least, back in the days. And I guess one step led to the other.
Interesting. Now that you say, I know, I think you were referencing 2011 when you were looking for this information and you said, you got files instead of getting the data. On a lighter note, wanted to share something that every time, let's say, somebody tries to write that HR tech has evolved all the way from the day of it being a paper driven process to now a paperless HR. I keep saying, hey, I think we've come fairly past that. And I think we're evolving into like a totally new era. So you don't have to take reference to the, where there were still physical files floating around. But I think I stand corrected, at least for the team who has been pushing me to kind of bring that perspective. I stand corrected that it's not so far ago, right? Or not so long ago that we had so much missing. But at the same time, it means that so much has happened in the last 14 years, right? Or 13 years that you're talking about.
It has definitely has.
Right? And I think that pace of evolution is what makes these conversations really exciting for us, where we would like to understand how that has evolved a lot. Now, what do you think is the biggest change that has happened in how HR is leveraging technology over these years, John?
But I feel the biggest needle mover has been in terms of people. When I'm saying biggest needle mover has been in terms of people, people have started looking, or HR professionals have started looking at technology as an enabler. Uh, uh, from I guess a bunch of years ago, when I have started seeing a lot of HRMS platforms and everything coming into place, technology was more considered as something that will come and take away jobs, or not something that will come and make life more easier. And at least what I've started seeing is there is now more embracement of, let me use this tool, it will make my life more simpler. Than let me use this tool, and if I use this tool, what will happen is my job might be at risk. I guess the needle has moved from things will primarily go at risk to it being an enabler as a part of it, to a very great extent. And I guess that has been one of the biggest change that at least I have witnessed.
Yeah. No longer a competitor, but a complementing aspect to their work.
110% about that, right?
Amazing. Now, while you're saying that there was that reception to leveraging technology to do better at their goal and job, what do you think would be the key tech adoption challenges that organizations might be facing today?
While I've asked this question multiple number of times to myself, as well as I've asked this question multiple number of times to folks who have been implementing technology within HR. Most of the time, I've been able to narrow it down to one or two aspects, and one of the biggest aspects that has been there is the human mind. And when I'm saying the human mind, it is embracing the change, which has been the biggest problem, which is primarily there that needs to be solved. The first use case that is always there is, for example, I'm just talking about this at work about something that we have been doing manually and that needs to be solved for with the help of technology. And the biggest question that has been there is, can we do it the same way that we can primarily see it on an Excel? And can it happen just the same way that the way we have primarily drawn it? And the answer was no. But I guess that's the biggest change that needs to primarily come. And that is more in terms of adapting towards a change, that there is something new, and just being agile in terms of figuring out with regards to what that newness brings. Will that newness bring in the exact amount of things out the way we were doing it or witnessing in the past? Maybe not. Will it primarily become better? Maybe yes. Will it culminate to becoming something very new and something different from what we have been experienced? Probably. But it will only come into place once an individual primarily decides to accept it. That acceptance is one big change that needs to come into place. And that's something that I've seen that needs to primarily happen, guys, which is not still happening, but it's still not happening to the pace at which we wanted to.
True, true. No, fantastic, John. I mean, can't say how much I agree with that. We call it in terms of saying that, in the implementation process, there is something called as the as is and the to be. When you're rolling out any technology, we kind of, or when we roll out Darwinbox technology as well, we go to the leaders, the project champions, and we ask that, hey, you will have a certain as is process that you're following, but you need to be able to visualize what the to be can be, right? Because in a transformation exercise, if you are just going to try to replicate the as is in the new system, it is actually better to save that cost and exist on the current system itself. Because, yeah, taking the same process and putting it on a new system is not going to necessarily change the experience there is going to be. And sometimes, maybe the pitfall to realize is also that the as is process exists a certain way because of some limitation of the previous technology that existed, right? And hence there is a need to kind of revisualize that is what we also keep experiencing. So very good to hear that from you too, John. If I have to delve a little deep into that and ask for, was there an instance where there was particularly a challenge for adoption, and what did you have to do to turn that around?
I would say all the time. There's not been a single instance where I can say that there was something new that was finally brought in form of technology or in form of any kind of change, and we didn't face resistance. We faced resistance at almost every single period of time. I guess the the biggest needle more for us at that period of time has been in terms of leading the change from the front and showcasing the impact and the result it can bring. The moment we are being able to solve for one of the biggest problems, it's more about identifying the right problems and solving for it. The moment we have been able to identify the right problem, showcase impact of it in terms of a before and after, the buy-in has become a little bit more easier. A lot many times for folks who have been in the system for quite some time, the resistance is a lot more because they've seen things happen in a certain way. It's like using a certain specific phone and then you change the model. It's not very easy to adapt. It's something on similar lines only that comes into place. Probably you're going to the new phone because of things being a lot more better, but that's the way it happens. And what you have primarily tried to do is we have primarily brought in champions for change, folks who lead it by design and folks who are involved. And we do a lot of co-creation. So right from the problem statement itself to designing it to implementing it, you will have folks who have been shadowing through and through the process. Because they have been shadowing it, they know the reasons with regards to why something is changed. They know with regards to why we are adopting it. They know with regards to why we are implementing it. They also know with regards to if we do this, what is going to happen versus if we don't do this, what is going to happen. And if a certain decision is taken, we don't have to wait for the person who has taken the decision. These champions itself walk the talk and solve for it and solve it.
I think great first principle as an advice, John. So what I hear is early involvement of key stakeholders who are going to influence the adoption, making them understand the problem, making them understand the solution and the impact of that solution, and making sure they become advocates as well for the change adoption. I think, again, something that sounds very fundamental and known to everybody, but still that generally is the challenging piece to, get time, attention, everything from all the right stakeholders.
I guess co-creation is the biggest powerful tool which has come in, and the
Mm.
way co-creation has helped solve for a lot of problems, I have not seen it happen in other areas. The
Yeah.
moment you get some of your customers involved in terms of right from the problem statement itself, the way the eventual technology or the product family gets involved, it is very, very different as compared to how we will envision it. So co-creation has helped to a very great extent.
No, well put, and absolutely agree with that. Want to go back to a reference that you took, right? Your first tries with technology, or like generally understanding what's missing with technology, is when you were looking for some data, right? And it was more difficult than you thought to get that. How do you think that has changed today, John? Like, what's the near utopia but realistic state that we are in today, where data, leveraging data through technology, has become like so much better?
I'll probably look at how it was. That's what I started my journey with in terms of asking for something and it coming into place in terms of physical paper format. To in 2016, we are, I guess, a set of Amazonians were selected in terms of doing testing for Amazon Alexa. And I got to hear voice, that is, voice based commands for the very first time and giving instructions for the first time. 2015, 2016, around that time period. To ChatGPT today, to or ChatGPT or AI in terms of or generative AI in terms of this. The way I see it is, I see a 3-year-old giving instructions to a system to count from 1 to 100, or hearing stories from it just by simple commands. Things that could have never been imagined back in the day. So right now, from a very HR centric standpoint, if I primarily look at it, John back in 2011 took 2 days to figure out with regards to what was the engagement trend or the attrition trend back in the day. To now, John has it very handy in front of him at any given period of time. This is data which is live updated. Two, in the future, if John is driving a car and at that period of time he wants to know with regards to what have been the top 3 random reasons for attrition in sales or attrition in engineering and how is it correlated towards engagement, I would just say, hey, Darwin, can you tell me with regards to what are the top 3 things? And what should I be doing differently from today onwards to solve for it? I guess a voice should primarily tell me from Darwin and tell me with regards to John, 1 to 3 areas are the top 3 areas which are there. To solve for the 1 to 3 areas, you should focus on 1 to 3 aspects and automatically puts instructions on my calendar, ensures that I'm primarily doing what I need to primarily do, and is also able to track impact. And 3 months later, give me an instruction because you had asked me 1 to 3 questions. This was the answer. This is the action that you have taken. This is what you have been following and not following. This is what the impact is. So life becomes as easy as it could be. And the way I see it, when I'm saying future, but my take is the way I've seen, say, generative AI only in the last 12, 15 months. I guess we are not years away, we are months away from this. So,
Yes. I'm glad you said that, John. I was grinning that time when you said that, the future is, you ask that through a voice command, and while driving, and you get that answer. That future is now, John, and we're super excited about what Gen AI has enabled, even for technology providers like us, to build for the end use cases, right? I think analytics, the way we see it, is so powerful, but yet probably complex, at least for the users who are trying to consume analytics. There's a certain complexity that is perceived around analytics, that, oh, it will be so difficult to get to that answer. I have to put like 4 filters. I have to combine 2, 3 reports, then get to that answer of what are the top reasons for someone at writing in my organization. Is it connected to engagement? Is it more in my India office versus the US office, right? All of these questions I have to do a lot of work, is the perception that is there. And I think today Gen AI helps extremely well to bring that down to simple conversational analytics that you can ask and you can get that response. So that future is now. The other future that you spoke about, which is very exciting, is to connect the action plan. And I just want to reiterate this because that's a brilliant point that you made, is to connect the action plan and be able to track and actually get a nudge back again that, hey, this is what is happening. So that's a brilliant one stated, and that's the future that we are excited about as well. Now, while we spoke about the trends in particularly analytics, or how people will consume, I think a little bit of that will overlap with what I'm going to ask you next, John. But what do you foresee as the key trends in the HR technology space that will change the way or impact significantly the people function and the objectives that people function is trying to achieve?
When I look at HR in technology and the future of HR in technology, it will just make life lot more simpler than it is already. Um, right now, things are available at a click of a button. Future forward, I guess there's a lot of action planning, figuring out with regards to what the problem statements are from a host of multiple data points. I guess that's something also technology will be able to do, and we'll be able to pinpoint with regards to you should go after these three problems instead of going after every other thing as a part of it. And we'll also be able to showcase that by doing these action plans, the expected outcome will be XYZ versus doing something else otherwise. Um, that's something that I see happening. I would say it's also somewhere in the very near future, that is in the upcoming months. That's one thing that will happen. Other than that, when I'm primarily looking at it, I'm looking at voice is a core thing that I already spoke about. ChatGPT is something, or something with regards to generative AI, something that will come into place on a regular basis with every other employee, with every other individual. I guess we are running behind in terms of a lot of these areas, right from hiring to every single element, from learning to performance management to policy processes and everything. All this will come into place. You just need to ask, and everything will be available. Is the way I primarily look at it. I don't see any place wherein technology will not be used. I guess in every single place, from hiring till exit, every single place, there will be a bit of technology that will come into this. So that's the way I primarily look at it. Will there be something new? I guess there will be a lot more in depth about a lot of areas that will come into place. Say in form of engagement, you'll get to know more in terms of what are the growth drivers or what are the drivers that will primarily enable a problem. What is it within a problem statements or sub problem statements which are primarily. You'll get to know about insights from that particular look that is, I don't think so it's currently available to that extent. So I guess there are a lot of depth of work that we primarily start coming into place with HR and technology.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting to learn, John. And I like the way you put it as well, right? While we keep talking about, of course, the one half of it of making life easier, simpler, right? Experience wise, more delightful. I think one very critical problem statement that technology will solve for more proactively in future is prioritizing which problem to focus on, and at this point in time, right? And the other that I'm excited to hear from you and see how technology fares in that direction is to be able to simulate what happens when you take multiple directions, right? That's a very new novel thought that should definitely be explored. But prioritization is one, and we keep specifically talking about how that's a very critical aspect, especially for the manager persona in an organization or a leader persona in an organization who has generally way more than what they can deal with, and how to bring about the right, how to surface the right kind of problem that they should address for the team at this moment is something that's going to deliver a huge impact, is what we keep as well debating on our drawing board when we look at the next technology feature that we want to build or product that we want to build. But really good to hear that. Before I jump into slightly less serious areas, I want to know what is one suggestion that you would give to HR folks who are particularly looking to leverage HR technology, right, to kind of leapfrog in their outcomes. And also, are there any particular skills or approach they should develop to kind of lead this territory in terms of how they become HR tech champions as well?
So it's a very interesting question. I get asked about this question a lot, especially from folks who are just passing out from college or just early on in terms of their career. a couple of things out, right? But I guess the first thing that is there is in terms of openness to learn. I still remember I was in a conversation with a couple of other HR leaders, and we had someone from a very good learning platform. And the person coming mentioned that the biggest course that is primarily there that is getting consumed is learning how to learn. It's a great skill set to primarily have if you know with regards to how to deal with it. If you don't know how to learn, it's a very difficult one to primarily capture. That's the first thing that I will primarily go after. The second thing that is there is being a lot more open and agile in terms of exploring what is there versus what you want to do. So rather than going after just the solution or just being very, very interested in terms of, oh, all right, this is something that I want to acquire. For example, about 6, 8 years back, gaming was like a big thing out in terms of the area of learning. And everyone just wanted to do one thing that was gamification in learning. And I figured that in almost every other piece of thing now, irrespective if it is a problem or if it is not a problem, what was getting asked was, can this be gamified? Now, if the problem is solving via gamification, or even if it is not solving, everyone wants to just force fit it out as a part of the process. So I guess it's important to get married to the problem, not get married to the solution. Don't do solution backward approach. Do a problem backward approach, and it will automatically give results. That's the third thing that is there. So these are three things that I would primarily recommend. So who are early on, learn fast, solve for scale. That's another thing out that I would also recommend. So four, I guess top four items you use.
No, absolutely. I think I'll pick my favorite from the response as well. I think it's a third one. That's going to be my favorite. It is very easy to get tempted into like all the shiny new solutions that are being spoken about and doing it for the sake of, oh, am I adopting the latest, right? But it's important to understand that it solves for a problem that you have, and also that you have everything that is needed to also make the most out of that solution. I love that point. I think that's my favorite. But yes, the rest of them are all, again, first principles that hold true
I
for.
guess the essence is to be away from the shiny object syndrome. So as long as you're away with that, I guess other things will fall into place.
Yeah. Definitely lead the change, lead the motion when you feel you're ready for it and you have a problem that kind of, requires that kind of a solution, right? No doubt about it. Uh, Love that, John. And by the way, I want to conclude this segment by saying that technology has evolved to a good place where you can sit out of a nice exotic location that is more filled with nature than, the office background that I'm sitting in. Definitely tech is helping us get to a much more hybrid work situation, right?
I
Uh,
guess a complete remote work situation for me in that much sense. I'm right now sitting in Kerala enjoying a lot of, I guess, natural birds chirping in my around, a lot of greenery in my around, along with family in my around. So yeah,
yeah.
it's been a delight myself. Yes.
And I can assure you that me, as well as everyone who is going to listen to this episode, is going to be envious of that background and the location that you're sitting in. Jumping into, I mean, while we spoke a lot about evolution on the HR tech side, John, jumping into a little bit of knowing you personally, right? And sharing from your own evolution journey. Let me ask you a few questions. Don't take a lot of time to think. We love the most spontaneous answer and the most, in fact, even simpler one word, two word answers as well. So, what is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Fail fast and experiment.
Great. You're very consistent with like how you think through and through.
Yeah.
A book or podcast that you would recommend every HR professional.
Oh, all right. I'm not an avid reader, neither do I hear a lot of podcasts. But one thing that I really, really enjoy doing is observing people. So I observe a lot. And when I'm saying a lot, I will just be standing at a bus stand or something and just observing people in terms of what they are doing. So I really like doing that. And I admire or I observe leaders whom I would ideally want to aspire towards, or folks or traits about those individuals. And I primarily go back figuring out as to why are they doing certain things in a certain way and what is making them do that. Because of that, what is becoming of their being and so on and so forth. So that's something that I like doing kinds.
Yeah, absolutely. If you were to switch roles with anyone in your team for a day, what would it be?
I'll take the role of the CEO and I'll look through everything that John is trying to recommend.
No? Great, great, absolutely. Get the full picture and the broad view of things. Awesome. What is an ideal weekend for you?
Ideal weekend in 3 words is baby's day out. So I take my 3-year-old outside every weekend. So it's like what you call it as Hazel Dada. So Hazel is my kid's name. So Hazel Dada on the it is. So I take my baby out on almost all the other weekends. So
I'm,
that's how it
I'm
is.
I'm really surprised and impressed you managed to fit into 3 words. I just blurted out saying in 3 words, but you managed to fit into 3 words. That's great. Let me, also put one question across and see what happens, right? I'll try to put you on the spot. It's my ambition to put you on spot, but I don't think I've succeeded the whole last 30 minutes. What is one thing that HR will not acknowledge but happens?
HR will not acknowledge, but it will happen.
But it happens, right? On a regular day at work or any, like generally at workplace, the things that happen, but an HR would not want to acknowledge that.
So there's some good amount of thinking.
Once you land on something, I'll tell you the reason I asked the question as well. We can do phone a friend also.
This is the longest thing that I've ever thought about. And it requires some good amount of deep thinking.
No,
Ah,
do phone a friend, or at the end of this episode, I think we can roll out a audience poll as well.
oh, it's a very good question. I need to think about in this through and through times.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'll,
what
I'll,
are the interesting answers that you've got so far?
no, I haven't asked this. So this is
Oh,
just
you
a
haven't asked
spontaneous
this. Oh, this is
question.
the first.
This is a spontaneous question just to you. And I'll tell you the background of why I'm asking that question, right? I think, let's say, I keep telling last 8 years I've been with Darwinbox in this role where I've been working very closely with HR leaders, that I keep joking that I can always trade my job for an HR job now, that I've been that involved in the function. But still, being someone who has a ringside view to things, I feel an HR leader is in an interesting spot where they're looked up to by the entire organization. So you're definitely forced to always say the right things, right? It's difficult to acknowledge a few things that happen, but acknowledging them won't help the organization in any form. So you kind of hold that back, right? So I myself will not give any examples right now of what I can think of.
I'll probably just call something out that is there in my mind. I would say one such area that I primarily see is we always require from a business standpoint everything and anything is required here and now, and we are somewhere not in acceptance with regards to this was not there in the part of the annual plan. How do we expect it to be delivered now? But when you see a lot of things are coming into place, because you have not planned for it, it's something that is bound to primarily remain. It's not something that is primarily bound to change. How much ever you plan at the start of the year or mid of the year or anytime during the year, there is something which is bound to primarily come into place that is going to change. And I guess that's something that we need to get more accustomed to. It's not that we are not acknowledged it. I guess to a good extent we have acknowledged it, but we have not gone past that fence saying that, oh, all right, this is my life, this is how it is going to be, and this is the present now and the future. That's something that needs more acknowledgement. I guess a more varied amount of acknowledgement that this is here to stay. It's not going to. The
Absolutely.
closest that I could think of was this. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I'll come up with more and I'll share and I'll definitely debate them out with you. But thank you so much, John. I have to say this is one of the most natural, free-flowing conversation that I've had. Also because I think the topic is very close to heart, and you're someone who truly is an experimenter, and someone who looks forward to the future. Right? I think when you say the answer of fail fast is the best advice that you'll give to your younger self, I can almost say that you actually lived that way, is how you have explored and experienced all the technology evolution. So it was wonderful catching up with you on a dialogue, on a topic that I myself am so passionate about. And thank you for sharing all your insights too.
It's been my pleasure, Gautam, and thank you so much to the entire team and to you for having me here and having me do this session.